consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. I'm finna stand on a rock, firm foundation. I got that dog in me, like 101 Dalmatian. I got girl with me, so I know that I'm still finna make it. I'm still finna take it. I hopped in the ring and I'm still going crazy. I cut off this shit like I just got a taper. I walk in the storm and then God gave me favor. I'm still going forward. I just had to lock in the Lord. I knew that I'm finna make it. Doing my old self, he got deported. Shout out to the king and I'm finna take it.
Let's get it.
So I knew that I'm still finna make it. I'm still in God gave me favor. I'm still going forward. I just had to lock in the Lord. I knew that I'm finna make it. Doing my old self, he got deported. Shout out to the king and I'm finna take it.
Let's get it.
What's going on, everybody? It's your host, SchuZ Shoemaker, and I will be bringing you guys a loaded episode today. Lots of stuff we're going to get into today, but first and foremost, just want to thank everybody for tuning in today, whether it's live, whether it's going to be later on in the recorded version of the show. But as I just said, it's going to be a loaded show today. I'm excited for the last show of the week because we're going to get into 3 different topics today, as usual. We're going to have Eternal Echoes, which I'll be breaking down the verse of the day. We're then going to get into some basketball topics when we go through Hardwood realities. And I'm going to wrap the show with combat currents. But the difference between this episode and the previous ones is that we're going to have a guest to kick off the show in just about 10 minutes. Kyrone Davis will be joining me. We're going to get into his most recent fight. We're going to talk about his upcoming future, some stuff about his past, growing up, and so much more. So you guys are not going to want to miss that interview. As I said, it will be starting at about 3:20 Mountain Standard Time. So just about 7 minutes or so, we'll get into that. But before we do that interview, it's going to be a little bit different this time. I'm going to give you guys the verse of the day today. And following that point, then I want you guys to meditate on it, think about it. The verse of the day will also be going down on the bottom of the screen, the ticker, as you guys can see currently. And you guys can kind of meditate on this verse for a little bit. It's going to be about 30, 45 minutes until I finally get into breaking down the verse of the day. But because the interview will come first. However, with that being said, the verse of the day for today is coming out of Proverbs once again. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 19. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 19. As I said, I want you guys to be able to meditate on that verse today, to be able to meditate on that part of scripture, and to really reflect on it and think about just what that means and obviously having a truthful voice and a truthful tongue. So that will be the verse of the day. I'll be breaking that down for you guys in the Eternal Echo segment that will be coming up right after the interview with Kyrone Davis. But as I alluded to, first and foremost, we're going to get into the interview with Kyrone. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in once again. Lots of stuff to get into. Olympics going on right now. Team USA just wrapped up a big W. I'm also going to be talking about that as I head into the gold medal game this weekend to wrap up the Olympics. And there's going to be so much more. You guys are not going to want to miss this show. I appreciate everybody for tuning in once again today. And I'll be seeing you guys in just a few short minutes after we get into this interview with Kyrone Davis. Talk to you guys soon. God bless. if you were to have the ball in your hands the whole game, you're the guy for a whole season, 82-game season, how much do you think you're averaging?
Ball in my hand, 25, no doubt. Easy. 25, no doubt, easy. And that's just me knowing my ability and knowing what I can bring every night. Because I feel like, because I see like the little stats on Twitter, some games, they be like, when Canton plays this certain amount of minutes, he averages 30, or he plays, this amount of games with this amount of minutes, he averages 25. So I feel like if I have the ability to play with the ball in my hand, make the decisions, all that stuff, I feel like I can average 25 points a game easy, no doubt.
From the moment I was born, a ball was in my hands and a deep passion for sports was ignited. My dream was to play the game for as long as possible, but God had other plans. After battling with severe illnesses caused by black mold poisoning for nearly 4 years, I made the difficult decision to let go of my on-court dreams heading into my junior year of high school. However, I was determined to have one last victorious moment as an athlete, and that was achieved on February 9th, 2019, when I ran a marathon at the age of 16. That night, as I took a recovery Epsom salt bath, I felt God place on my heart the idea to start a podcast. Although I didn't know where to begin, the first episode of SchuZ Views dropped on March 11th, 2019. Over the next 1,183 days, more than 600,000 people tuned into 1,056 interviews. Then, on June 6, 2022, my final interview for over a year was released featuring Jameer Young. I never once thought that I'd be off the air for over a year, but the truth is there was something missing in me. At first, I thought creating a website would help fill that void, so I went and put together SchuZ.net, but nothing changed. Throughout the next month, I continued searching for answers, and eventually, God worked in the only way that would have gotten my attention at that point in time. Through something work-related. By the end of July 2022, my parents blessed me with the opportunity to build a studio. However, before breaking ground, the real change began. On August 3rd, 2022, my life changed forever. Once again, I happened to be taking a bath late into the night, and suddenly, an indescribable feeling came upon me. It was a profound urge to open up my Bible and read. I turned to 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and since that night, not a single day has passed without me spending time in the Word. You see, what was missing all along was Jesus. On August 6th, my dad and I began to lay the foundation for the next chapter of my career. Simultaneously, the foundation of who I was created to be was also being laid. Over the years, I had lost sight of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I knew of God, but I didn't know Him, and I certainly was not following or living like Him. But day
Staying consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. I'm finna stand on a rock, firm foundation. I got that dog in me, like 101 Dalmatian. I got God with me, so I know that I'm still finna make it. I'm still finna take it. I hopped in the ring and I'm still going crazy. I cut off this sin like I just got a taper. I walk in the storm and then God gave me favor. I'm still going forward. I just had to lock in the Lord. I knew that I'm finna make it. Doing my old self, he got deported. Shout out to the king and I'm finna take it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the SchuZ Show. As I said right before the break, I've got a very special guest that'll be joining me. He's 19, 3-1, 6 KOs. That's Kyrone, Shut It Down Davis. Kyrone, how you doing today, man? Good. So you obviously just came off one of your biggest wins, possibly what people say might be your best performance, just by a little bit over a month or two ago now. Walk us through how you're feeling right now.
It was about a month ago, so we back in the gym already, so we're worrying about the next happening. I mean, it was a good victory. It was a good learning experience and a good victory too.
So we're gonna get into that in a little bit, but I gotta start off with one thing for you. So your nickname, obviously, you go by Shut It Down. You gotta take us to the backstory a little bit about that. How'd that come to be?
I actually was in church when I was like 16 years old, and the pastor was talking about like shutting down things in your life getting in your way, and if it's alcohol or drugs or distractions, and it resonated with me, so I kind of just stuck with it.
Now, from that point in time, then, I know you obviously grew up, and boxing wasn't always the sport you pursued to begin with. I know you were playing a lot of sports growing up, basketball, baseball, those things like that. What was the story behind you falling in love with boxing?
I think boxing just kind of grew on me, more so than falling in love, like just in the gym all the time. You just kind of, I'm a competitive person, like to win, so I think just being in the gym and in an environment, especially in the Philly boxing scene. I lived in Delaware, but so close to Philly, and in Baltimore and Jersey. It just grew on me. The love of the sport. It's like a love-hate thing, Cause sometimes you love it, but sometimes you hate it at the same time. But it's love, so.
So I read a quote that you said before that when you were going through this process of deciding, what am I going to do with my life? Is it going to be boxing? Whatever it was, you said that when you chose boxing, it was that you're in a position that you can't blame anybody else. It's pretty much all on yourself when you get in that ring.
Yeah.
Take us through that mindset a little bit. What was it about that aspect that was attracting to you?
Well, I was just in a celebrity all-star game, celebrity basketball game, and we lost, and it wasn't my fault. So, no, it's a thing where I just feel like boxing. You have the full control over like your destiny, and it's less moving parts when it comes to like boxing. So,
Now, there's two sides of that because I grew up playing basketball, and I know, like you said, you play a lot of team sports as well growing up. But when you go in there, it's got two sides of it. One aspect is you don't have to rely on anybody else. If it's somebody else is having a bad day, it's not going to impact you. But at the same time, that means all the pressure's on yourself. So that means no matter what goes down, obviously all the eyes, all the attention, all the critics will be on yourself as well. How have
yeah,
you learned to kind of balance that and now embrace the fact that, no matter what goes out on there, it's all going to be on your shoulders?
it's a learning process. It's something that you get better with. For me now, I mean, I don't even think about that stuff. Like
Sure.
I do it for a bigger reason. It's bigger than myself now. So, where we're younger and it's all about, I just want to be the best for me. When you get older, you start finding out different things, different reasons to win.
So I know that when you were about 13 years old is when you officially decided to start pursuing boxing then. And yes, I read a story about your dad and how he kind of pushed you, that it was running across the Delaware Memorial Bridge. No time he dropped you off in the woods and you had to go run to the gym to spar and then you have to run again afterwards. Walk us through that because I know there's not a lot of parents that can be able to push their son like that at that age especially. Take us through just the impact he had in your life to be able to push you at that young of an age to get you into the sport.
I mean, when you're young at that age, you don't have a choice.
True.
You do what your parents tell you to do.
Mhm.
And I think those type of psychological battles my dad put me through, that you see it when I'm in the ring now. You see the mental toughness, and you see the resilience that comes from like just being brought up in a system that is like teaching you to like push through even when you think you can't. Even when you think it's not fair, or even when odds are stacked against you. So I mean, those type of things. I mean, my dad did it with. It wasn't like abuseful. It was more like
Mhm.
he's doing these things just to kind of like mirror and show me things now, so that when I get to him in real life, that I'm able to get pushed through and get through it. You know what I mean?
No, I think that's huge because I know in today's world, a lot of people always go back and forth. How much is pushing your son? What does that have to look like? Can you do it? And there's so much different things in this world that people want to judge on parenting and whatnot. I'm obviously on the side of that. Like if your son wants to decide that that's what they want
Yeah.
to do, then push him to be the best. How big was it having him in your life to help you become the man and the fighter that you are today?
I think it was very, very important. My mom and my dad, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, without them, I wouldn't be here. So and it's for everybody. Your mom and your parents are the reason why you're here. The impact in their life definitely is an asset to growing. Nobody like knows you like people that made you.
What would you say is the hardest workout or thing that your dad put you through to get you ready for a fight or to get you through boxing?
I mean, to get ready for a fight, no, because I mean, he's not my boxing trainer,
Yeah.
but he's definitely I don't know, I can't think. I mean, it's all a blur now, It's all
Mhm.
just kind of instilled in me. It's not nothing seems hard, So, but some things that we did, like running 12 miles. I'm at like 8 years old, running with weights in my hands, running with weighted vests, running with like just what I mean, just long. I remember one time we treaded water for like an hour.
Mm.
We just put me in the middle of the pool and just made me tread water for an hour, and that was rough. I remember that was real rough.
hmm and we can kind of see that. I know you said earlier that's part of what helped you become the fighter that you are today in terms of the mentality aspect. And we've seen that in fights, whether it's when you come out victorious. We're talking about one fight later on where we saw you against Benavidez and you just did not want to give up. You kept putting up a fight. You kept going after it. Take us through the psychological aspect for yourself where you truly are a guy that's going to lay it all out there. There's nothing that's going to stop you. You're going to keep pushing yourself. Walk us through that mindset for yourself.
I'm sorry, somebody was calling me. Say that one more time. Ask me that again.
Yeah. So when we see you in the ring, when we've seen you being able to go out there and do things where we know that you don't give up, whether it's as a victorious fight or as a fight that you've lost, we've seen you put through and go through no matter what it is. And pretty much the only way to stop you is if you obviously the towel gets thrown in on you. Walk us through that mindset of where you've been able to establish yourself as a guy that no matter what, you're going to push through and you truly are going to have that warrior mindset.
Yeah, I mean, that's just me. Like, it's just me. That's just me every time. I can't really describe it because it's like it's just me. It's not like a pretend or anything that I have to turn on. I've always been a determined person. I, 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 I don't know. My pride wouldn't let me quit. Or my pride wouldn't let me stop trying. And because I'm such a prideful fighter, I think that's why you get the results that you will get in them tough type of fights. And some of the decisions I make too, like taking a fight in 2 weeks' notice. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Or being able to fight and being willing to fight anybody, anytime. You know, uh, despite the odds, of being able to persevere through them kind of like moments, like, and and I've gotten even better with it, just growing in my career. Just literally just growing in my career, just being in the moments. And now these fights that I'm having, they're getting easier, and things are starting to slow down a little bit for me. It's a marathon. Like, it's true. Boxing, like the sport of boxing, or anything you do, when you're trying to get to the next level, it's always a marathon. Everybody's always trying to race and be the best as quickly as possible, but it's that slow grind. Everybody's journey is different.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about that mindset, was that something that you say was established from the beginning of your time? Because you start going through the amateur ranks and you go work all the way up there before you turn pro. Have you always had that mindset? Was that something that it took some time to develop in yourself to truly unlock out of you? Or has that just been something that from the time you pursued boxing at 13 years old, that was already equipped in you?
It's like I said, it's been a journey. So like, it's always been in me, and it shows now even more with maturity. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you do a lot of blaming yourself when you're younger. You do a lot of overthinking, and you do a lot of like, and then depending on the type of person you are, you take shortcuts, or you try to get there without having to do the little things. As you mature, you start to learn like what's really important and what you should prioritize, and when is it good to be that person, and when should you shut it off.
Sure.
I mean, maturity comes in big. Experience is a huge thing, and you don't really know what experience is till you have it. Like, man, I couldn't tell myself 22 anything.
Mm-hmm.
But like at 29 years old, the experience, I now know the difference between experience. Like, there's not a 21-year-old and a 29-year-old is two different people. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
person I am today is like totally different. Like, I would, if I fought my 21-year-old self, I would stop myself. Like,
Yeah.
I know too many things. It's too many things that I overlooked that was right there. But everybody's different. Like, you see some guys, they flourish really fast in their career really early, and and then some fighters fade, fast. Some fighters have a long shelf life and they last a long time. So I mean, it just depends how you take the sport in, and everybody's different. There's not like one formula to tell you how it's done, but you got to work it out for yourself.
I heard what you said there because I think in all sports and all aspects of life, you obviously grow and mature. At least that's the goal in life. But especially in boxing, the gap from the psychological aspect, just understanding the game, being able to break it down, being in the ring, experience and whatnot. Every fight you grow in, let alone you talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I noticed I was just talking about it on the Monday show. Jared Anderson obviously went out there, didn't have the best performance just this past weekend, but he's still young. He's got so much time to grow.
Yeah.
Walk us through that aspect when you just talk about the age differences. Like, how big is a year, or in this case, you just talk about even an 8-year gap for yourself? How much just change can happen, both from the psychological aspect, the mental aspect, but also just physically?
Well, mentally it's different, but like the way that you go about it, your approach. Um, if you're, and that's if you're like working on it all the time. If you're
Mm-hmm.
constantly working on yourself, you should be getting better. Like, it should be a difference in 9 years if you're constantly growing. But just like mental things that you do before the fight, like little things. Like, I do like little reaction and cross puzzles, like before I go to sleep while I'm training now. Like,
Mm.
little small stuff like that, and like just the reason why you're doing it is very important. Like, Like when you're taking the punches and when you're going through and when you're walking and you're talking yourself through the rounds and things happen that are unexpected and you're walking yourself through the fight, knowing how much time it is, gauging like where you are at in the fight. Knowing when to turn the gas on, when to turn it off. All that stuff is experience, and it's different for every fighter. Like some the way you deal with pressure. Acknowledging when you're hurt. Like like when you're younger, you get hurt, you can feel panic because you've never been in that position. But like in my career, I've been hit so many times that I know exactly how it feels. Like it would not panic me. You wouldn't be able to even tell if I was hurt because I just know how to deal with it so well.
What would you say is the biggest thing that you've seen yourself grow in throughout your professional career now?
My patience.
Mm-hmm.
And patience is a big thing. It's one of the big, huge things that you see when you're around like all the great fighters. I've been in camps with like some of the greatest fighters of our generation, and you pick up little things, but the biggest thing is patience. I think it's really underrated because boxing is so fast. That patience is a little overlooked.
So how do you learn to balance that? Because you obviously are a guy that I know earlier in your career too, you had a large output of punches, and now you kind of, like you said, you've added in that patience to a large extent. How do you learn to balance when's the right time to be patient and be able to kind of get in the right situations, land the right punch at the right times? Like how have you learned to balance that when you get in the ring?
It's a feel kind of thing. You just feel it through, but you don't ever try to not be yourself. You stay within yourself
Sure.
and you move through the moments correctly, how you feel right with them, how you think you should approach it. But you just be patient. You know what you're looking for. You have your game plan. You have your your skill set, and you know what you're able to do, and you take it one step at a time. You don't try to go from one to C. You take it from you take 1, 2, 3. Then you break it down, and you start add a little more patience. It's really important when you're talking about like fighting like guys that are talented, like especially like a guy like I just fought like a young talented guy that wants to like he just wants to get you into a firefight. And you can the reason I was able like to break him down and like slow him down was just with patience, with like giving him some and show him a little bit and not doing too much and having him try and fail and then put a little more on him and then constantly just wash and repeat until he just gets frustrated. Um, you're not able to do that if you don't have patience. I can get super excited. I land some punches and throw 6 of them, and now I'm in a firefight, and I'm more in his fight than I want to be in my fight. Those little small things that you do, and there's a couple other tricks that I've learned. That's some things I'm not going to say because I'm still in my career, but
Yeah.
things that I've learned that changes the game. It's some eye opening things that I've learned in the last about year and a half that help up my class of fighting. So I'm excited to keep showing.
So I kind of do want to go into that last fight. Then you're going against Elijah Garcia, and the lead up to that to begin with was a little bit odd because you guys were originally scheduled to fight at one date in March, I believe, and then obviously it gets rescheduled, postponed. You then end up going to fight a few months later. Then walk us through that aspect because I know it's got to be tough. You put all the money into the camp, you get your body ready, you're in the best shape, ready to go fight, and now you got to go postpone it a little bit. How does that affect a fighter?
It's very frustrating. Camp takes a lot out of you. Camp is harder than the fight lots of the time. Just going through a camp and just trying to get through the camp without no injuries, is
Yeah.
hard now. So that was upsetting because we were preparing. We were perfect. Actually, I was more ready the first time than the second time, and just because my body felt better, I was a little less worn. My hands felt better. Even my weight came off easier the first time around. So when we rescheduled it, just because of like the timing, I don't know if it was a timing thing or just the way we had to get right back into training without like resting at all, really not having that much time. It kind of just threw my body off a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but it just wasn't as good. I didn't feel as good as I did the first time around.
So then you think that if you would have fought on the original date, that you could have even got him out quicker, or at least even had a more
Yeah, I
dominant
think
win?
I think if we would have fought the first time, the way I was feeling the first time, it definitely would have been even though it would have been even cleaner. I mean, they sound probably lost like a round or two. this fight, but like it might have not even gone the distance if we fought the first time. The first time I was feeling like I would say about 15% better than I did the fight. Just everything. Just literally my condition. My numbers were better the first time around. So like I was running. I was running my mile times were faster by about 20 30 seconds. Like
Mm.
on um my everything that my sprints were faster the first time around. Um, it was just better. It was just a the the camp was the camp was just a good camp, and it was I was unfortunately wasn't able to fight, but the second time around we still had like a great camp,
Sure.
but it just wasn't, you know what I mean. It wasn't, but who knows, who knows what would have happened that day, you know what I mean. So like everything happens for a reason, but I did come into the second fight. I mean, I was feeling great and feeling the shape and feeling as good as I felt, just not as great number wise than I did the first time. Because I keep track of all that stuff, like the numbers, my mile time, you know what I mean, my recovery time, how my body feels. I write that all down now, and that's just coming from experience too. Just knowing when you see it, it helps you know where you are.
Hmm. So that fight, though, you headed into it, and if people have already forgot, you were the underdog heading into that fight. You weren't the favorite, and yet you go out there and pretty much dominate the entirety of that fight. Then, walk us through that aspect. You being the underdog now, you have this up and coming, undefeated, young, quickly rising fighter. Was that a different mindset for yourself, knowing that you were an underdog, or at least not even favored to any extent that fight?
No, I'm usually the underdog. I'm
Hmm.
usually not expected to. Not that I'm not a good fighter, but when you take a loss, people just and you're fighting the ace, and you're fighting on the B side. That's just how boxing works. That's how the game is. People don't look at the actual fight; they just look at the name, or they look at the trend, um,
Hmm.
and they don't really understand maybe the other person. People that really knew boxing, they knew that I was going to win. Like I've people sent me the tickets. I probably got over 50 tickets. People sent how much money they won. You know what I mean? Just knowing, putting down real money too, like $4,000 or $5,000 on me. Just on the win, on the decision. So I mean, people that knew their stuff, that was an easy win. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's nothing that he did that was better than me. It's the opposition that he fought. It was just those guys were kind of tailor made to what he likes to do. Like he has a great offensive ability, but he needs you to stand there, and he doesn't have great quickness.
Hmm.
Does not have terrible speed, but doesn't have good quickness. Quickness is like that, like it's like reacting fast. It's
Yeah.
quickness. Like if your first thought, he doesn't think fast. He's not quick. He doesn't think fast. Everything is, if it's in front of him, he can land it, but it takes him a while to get there.
Hmm.
You can kind of keep him always like one step behind. Some of the things I picked up on him just watching him, there's nothing that he did that was better, and I knew for a fact his mind wasn't better than mine.
And so there was a little bit of late rally from there in the later rounds. You obviously held off and still had the win by good amount there. But walk us through that aspect then, because when he gets going then a little bit and he kind of gets into fighting his way a little bit, how did you fend that off and be able to still come out on top?
He wasn't doing anything. He landed a few punches, but we're in a fight. We're supposed to land punches.
True.
Too late for that. Like like you lost. Like he was coming on, but it wasn't like worrying me. I'm not a worry kind of. I don't get like you land some punches. Got in the ring to get hit. Like you're going to get hit. Like I didn't think I was going to get hit. The fact that it took you 8 rounds to touch me, or 9 rounds to touch me,
Yeah.
shows how dominant it was. And yeah, you had a good round, but that round was still close.
Hmm.
Even the good round that he had. So I mean, it didn't worry me at all. Like I see him coming on, I see him trying, but I expected it. Like because I'm like, when is he going to turn it up? Because you know what I mean. You're undefeated, you're number one contender in the world. I know he was going to try to I wasn't going to go out quietly. So I
Hmm.
was kind of waiting to see when is he going to? Because I was sitting there doing the same thing. I'm like, I wonder when he's going to change something, so to make me have to change something.
Hmm.
He's never changed anything. He just tried harder, and I just had to sharpen it back up. But he just,
So would you say that was the best performance of your career to this point?
um, that probably, maybe I don't know. I don't know. I can't. It's hard to tell. All the fights come with different challenges in and out the ring. So I remember I had a fight. Maybe like I don't even know. I forget what fight it was, but I had a fight very early in my career where I got hit with a shot, and I don't remember the rest of the fight. I don't remember the rest of the fight. I couldn't tell you what punches I landed. I won the fight unanimous decision easily. I won every round, but I don't remember the fight. So that's impressive. I was always impressed that I was able to like skate through the fight easily. They said I don't know, but they said that I didn't get hit the rest of the fight. But he must have hit me hard enough where I didn't really remember the fight well.
Mm-hmm.
So that is it. So it's all type. Every fight comes with a different challenge. I fought a fight with one hand. Coming into the fight. I fought what's that 2 fights ago. Well, who's the guy I fought right before this fight? What's his name? A Christian. His name might be Garcia too.
Mm-hmm.
Last name. But I fought him with one hand.
Mm.
I didn't have my right hand at all, and he was a southpaw. So it was all jabs and hooks and left uppercuts the whole fight. So that's an impressive win too. But it's a different kind of win, you know.
Sure. And I think the thing that why people probably say it's the best performance is this obviously was a notable win, and now it sets you up in position now to be in a place where whatever is next for yourself, you do obviously have opportunities to continue to work your way up.
It's definitely my most important win.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Definitely my most important win, and it sets me up for we knew that coming in, like this is why we took the fight, because it was gonna put us in position. Like I like fights that put me in position. I don't like all the like. It's hard for me to get up for like the middle fights.
Yeah.
These fights that are bigger are the ones that I like to really get myself into. I like getting in there with somebody who makes me a little nervous.
Mm. So who could that possibly be next? Because we look at this division, and overall, it's a pretty open division. There's a lot of stuff in this 160 weight division that's got openings. You have a lot of contenders in there, a lot of different guys with belts right now. Who are some of the guys that you've got on your list that you're looking at right now, potentially fighting for your next fight?
I mean, they're working out something right now with a guy. Hopefully for we were trying to maybe if not for the full belt interim. We want the biggest guys. So like anybody with a title. So that's Carlos Adames with a title, Laura with a title right now. I know he's fighting Dennis Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm fighting at 155, which I don't really understand. But we got Jenovic, but he didn't make weight his last fight. So I heard that he's thinking about moving up to 168. So then that's Withers. I'll fight for the vacant title. Like it's whatever. I'll fight whoever it is. But my goal is the world title. So I don't have any like picks when it comes to like who I will fight. It's just somebody, just as long as it can be sanctioned under one of the main titles.
So you'd say your goal is more so you just want to get the belts, you want to be victorious. Whoever is in the way, just who you want to have to go through. Then not necessarily.
Yeah, I want to get to that. I want to get the world. I want to get a world title. Then we can move. Then we can start doing other things. But that's always been my lifetime goal is to be a world champion. So we was able to pick up a international belt through his last fight. It's cool. It gets my fan base excited. It puts me in position. It gets me ranked high. But now it's time. I want that world title shot.
So do you think we could see a potential world title shot, whether that be an interim one or that be the official full one within this year, calendar year? Could it be in 2025? Like how soon do you think that could be?
It's possible. It could be this year. We got some talks. It's definitely can be that. I'm ranked high enough where that's possible, and we're in the talks for some serious stuff this year. But if it's not this year, definitely 100% be early next year.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to also ask you about something because I was going through a little bit about your bio and your history, and there was a fight against Patrick Day, and you said afterwards that almost was a fight that you had to start reconsidering if this was what you want to continue to do. Then you were 13-2 at this point. It was a tough weight cut at that stage. Can you take us through that? Because obviously, you talk about yourself having the warrior mindset. This is something that you've pursued. You put so much time into. How close were you to possibly giving up at this sport?
Well, as a boxer, like you go through a lot of like things mentally, like what you thought your career was going to be. It's like very similar to like how like you have your life planned out for you, and then when things don't go the way you wanted to go. It's kind of like you got to rethink of how you doing it.
Yeah.
So for some people, it's like their job opportunity, or maybe it's for a woman is like being married by a certain age, or things going working out perfectly, like marriage, kids, house, like what I mean, this is ways you thought it was going to go, like the perfect
Hmm.
ideal way that you thought, but it just didn't work out that way. Things happen, life happens. So like coming up as a young boxer, me coming up, it was a lot of Floyd Mayweather. Having an O
Yep.
and taking the first loss was tough because it's just like, well, you can't get that no more. So now I got to move on to something else, and then you hold on to something else, and but all right, I got one loss, I'm not gonna lose ever again. And and then you're put in a situation where you for me it was like I didn't do what I was supposed to do. It was a very winnable fight for me that I know I should have won. Um, but some things outside the ring just it kept me from being able to prepare properly and having enough time. That on top of that, but I was way too heavy trying to cut down to 154. I was walking around like 195 and making that in less than 4 weeks. So it was just kind of dumb on my part to think that I could do that. And then just having a second loss is like 13-2. You got to get your mindset to like rebuild your career. Like I had to really honestly kind of start over.
Hmm.
So like, did I want to do that? Was
You cut out for a couple of seconds. Can you go back a little bit? You said it was you were right at the point where you were saying you're kind of rethinking, and then it cut out. Oh, can you hear me? We'll get him added back here in just a couple seconds. So we'll add Kyrone back here, and we'll get the interview wrapped up in a couple of minutes. Just going to get him fixed back in here real quick. Going to quick break, then we'll add him right back in. Welcome everyone. So we'll get right back to that one question. So you were in the midst of talking about how you were obviously going through that weight cutting process, and then how close you were getting to officially possibly moving on from boxing. Just kind of take us to that a little bit.
Yeah, it was just rough, just a weight cut and just knowing that I could have done a lot better, and kind of think like, can I do this? Am I doing this correctly? because things aren't going your way, and to be able to continue to do this, I got to do this the right way. So took a little time off, got my head right, and made it a different commitment the rest of my career.
Do you remember the point that you officially said, okay, you know what? This was just a little bit of a downhill thing. This was just a little bit of a rough patch. This is what I want to pursue, though. What made you officially decide this is what you are officially going to pursue for the remainder of your career now?
I don't really know the moment, but it's kind of slowly just because I stopped listening to watching boxing, and stopped listening to boxing, and stopped altogether for a little bit. Just I wasn't in the gym at all, and I wasn't watching boxing. I don't care how big the fight was, I wasn't watching the boxing. And then I started slowly watching boxing again, slowly like trying to find a love for the sport again. So I was in the gym, I was just lifting weights and then do a little, you know, did a little bit of running. Then I was in the gym one time and the guys were sparring, so I kind of just got in there, did a couple rounds, and just slowly just get the love for it again, and build confidence slowly. So just kind of ease myself back into it until I was ready to be like, you know what, let me get ready for a fight. And then I know what kind of shape I gotta be in to fight. So I call my coach. And I'm like, yo, I'm coming up. And, we just started one day at a time.
So I do have to ask you, because you talked about the weight cut process. You started off, you said, at 192 originally. You had to get down to 154 in 1 month. How the heck did you pull that off?
I'm just crazy, like discipline, like do everything perfectly, and some. Always do everything perfect. Everything that you eat, everything you do all day, every day, it's got to be like towards the fight. Some crazy tricks to cut the weight. Just it was awful, but I was able to do it, but it wasn't without obviously. Man, I felt terrible. Like I like the first 3 rounds, I was great. I was winning the fight, and then I just felt my body just like give up on me. Like it just like was aching. My legs were heavy. Like and it was starting to get into me mentally. Like, why am I feeling like this? And my punch output just dropped. That's really what it was. I worked. He came in prepared, and and I wasn't. So
Now, we've seen you fight a couple different weight classes. Right now, you've kind of settled in, it seems like, at 160. But is that the weight class that you feel most comfortable at? Do you feel like this is the one that you really want to stay at and work your way up to getting those belts now?
yeah, I mean 160 is my weight class. Like it's always been my weight class. The fighting at 154 was a little low for me.
Yeah.
Especially at the time, I didn't know how to do it right. And then 160 is just kind of right where I was. 168 is too easy to make. Like it's like I don't gotta do much. And, 160 is like that perfect weight where like my body is, and I look like a middleweight. 168 I look a little small sometimes.
So you did decide to move up, though, and you fought at 168 for a little bit, and you had one surprising fight to a lot of people, at least against Durrell. And then obviously we have the Benavidez one we'll talk about right after that. But what kind of motivated you to say, you know what, you want to go test it out at 168?
The money.
Yeah.
They just offered me money. I wasn't even thinking about it. We was gonna fight what's his name, Juan Montiel. He fought Charlo. I don't know if you've seen that fight when he fought Charlo. But we had that fight and I ended up getting COVID. And then when I got COVID, I had to, they called me for that fight. Right after COVID, I got in trainer and then they called me for the fight, and it was at 168. And I was like 168. I was a little nervous about like just the weight because I never fought at 168. I wouldn't know how. I wouldn't even know how to train to be a 168 pounder. We had some things you had to do to be a 168 pounder. To be like do it correctly. So I was kind of a little nervous about that. And then they offered me a lot of money, the more money I've seen in my career. Back then, and we took the risk, and we knew the risk was going to come with a reward if we did it correctly. So it was worth it. I mean, it built me as more high profile fighter. More people had me on the radar, knew who I was after that fight. And it would walk me right into I fought right after that. I fought on Fox Sports main event. Then I was able to fight on Benavidez. It kind of just started to make sense. Like when I was getting into them fights, it was easy to kind of put me in them because people knew who I was. And then after the Benavidez fight, even how I fought that fight, it was one of the fights of the year that year. it was able to just propel me to, still getting opportunities and still being able to, do things like I'm doing right now.
And that Benavidez was one I also want to ask you about because that was not an easy fight to take. We already knew who he was heading into it. You're on a 2-week notice, let alone you're already up at a weight class that obviously you're not most comfortable at overall. And you go fight one of the top guys. How did that whole thing come together? Because that's not easy. A 2-week notice, going out there fighting one of the
Yeah,
top
I mean,
guys.
I'm a little crazy. So like, I'm a little crazy. I actually got the call when I was like coming out of the club. And I got the call, and it was like it was like a situation where I didn't think that that I was gonna get a call like that, and then but I had to make a decision to like either take it or or wish I did.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to wish that I did. So he took the fight. I knew it was gonna be tough. I knew it was gonna be a hard fight. I knew it was gonna be one of like a real fight. But you know what I mean? It's hard for me to turn stuff like that down. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Opportunities like that down. You know, we just went for it. Um, and I knew if I put on a good showing, like I could pull it off. It only takes one punch to land. You could pull it off, and I believe in my ability.
Yeah.
He's a good fighter, but I also believe in my ability. I think if I had more time, the fight would have been different. But you know,
And I know that's one thing that for sure I do respect about your game and your mentality. And I think a lot of people do as well is that you look at that and you talked about earlier too, that the O is such a big thing in boxing. So many people look at the O and the second they get a loss, the mindset shifts and people's perspective of them changes. And so that kind of gets a lot of guys nervous to go take these big fights. A lot of guys would say, no, I'm not going to do that right now. It's too much of a risk to that O in my
yeah,
career, whatever it might be. You don't have that mindset. No, like you said, probably was a little bit early in your career, was a little bit of an disappointment, but
yeah,
you have that mindset saying, you know what, I might have an extra loss, but this is an experience. This is a fight that I know I can make this become a positive no matter what happens.
yeah.
How have you developed that?
I think because I took my loss at like when I was 10-0, and
Mm-hmm.
I was a hot prospect 10-0, and we was fighting on. We had that toe to toe Tuesday stuff, and everybody was talking about me, and then I took a loss. I took a loss early, 10-0. I mean, even though it was like kind of moving me fast, but like so because I was so young, I was able to go through that at a young age. Like now that like the way I'm at now, I don't care about no wins. I know that doesn't pay the bills. Like you know what I mean. I know that doesn't really define you. I know I have understanding that you only as good as your last fight.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really bother me. Like I also understand like how many people have losses and how many great historic Hall of Fame fighters have losses.
Yep.
And I just understand that part. It's a game. We're playing the game, and people gonna say what they want to say, but a lot of people won't step in the ring in the first place. So it doesn't bother me. Taking a loss or potentially being embarrassed, like any of that stuff, because a lot of people can't do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
They just paying to watch.
And I also want to ask you because you talked about earlier some of the guys you sparred with. You've had an incredible list. Just some guys I was able to find footage of or reports about. Adrian Bronner, you're part of. Triple G, Canelo, Boots. I know you have a relationship with Caleb Plant as well. Have any of these guys or someone maybe I didn't even list, who would you say has been the toughest spar you've had or the guys really help push you the most?
I mean, they all push you in different kind of ways. I can't really say who pushes you more. I mean, you learn things from everybody, and especially different parts of your career. Like sparring with G when that was years ago. That was a good experience and learning different things and being able to fight under high pressure and things to sparring Canelo is just last year. It ups your game. Like it just ups your game. Like those guys are fine sparring. Boots is younger than me. I remember sparring Boots when I was 10-0,
Mm-hmm.
and he was still in amateurs. Now sparring him now, to then you can see the difference of his development, how great he is now. Um, I mean, it's just those are experiences that you need. You got to get in there. Iron sharpens iron. So get in there with them kind of fighters. They only make you better.
What would you say is the biggest thing you've taken from some of those guys? Like you said, we're just talking about some of the all-time greats, Hall of Fame guys right here. What are something that you'd say you've watched them, you studied them, you got to then go spar against them, and now you've applied into your game?
I don't know. everybody, like I said, everybody teaches you different things. Um, definitely just we just take you. I take a little bit of everything from everybody. Honestly, I always look for something that I could take. I'm
Mm.
like looking for something like what do they do that helps them do what they know how to do. And picking a brand and just talking to them and just getting insight. You know, being in camp with Canelo was a great experience just because the heights that he has been able to reach and how long he's been able to have a reign in the game. Just talking to him and listening to him break down the things that after the sparring we'll sit down. We'll be in the sauna and we'll be just talking about the sparring for like an hour.
Mm.
Like those type of conversations, those type of like things, and then you go back and you're learning um, different things, and you're applying it the next day or the day after in sparring. It's ups your game, your IQ, your game, your confidence. So, with every person that I've been in the ring, I've learned something from. Being even Terrence Crawford, and being in the ring with Danny Jacobs. I've been in the ring with Adrian Broner, Demetrius Andre, um, Gabe Rosado went right after he fought Triple G. Um, I've been in there with Erickson Lubin. Julian Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the ring with like the sport, the whole sport.
So if you were to go tell your 13-year-old self this, that you're going to be able to go and become the fighter you are today, but then also just have the experience that you've had today, do you think that 13-year-old self, when you first committed to boxing, would ever have even believed these things would have happened?
My 13-year-old self would have been mad that I haven't done more.
Okay.
I'm still trying to impress my 13-year-old self.
Mm-hmm.
I still got some work to do. But my 13-year-old self would have wanted to be. He looked up to Roy Jones Jr.
Mm.
Pound for pound, Hall of Famer. So when you're 13, you got big, 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 big dreams and big goals. So my 13-year-old self had expected me to be 60-0,
Okay.
time unified world champion, pound for pound. Um, yeah, and I already had a bio topic made.
Absolutely. So I got a couple more questions before I let you go. And one of those things is kind of going back to Canelo real quickly. When you just talk about being able to just hang out with him and not even sparring, just being able to talk to him about the sparring session, about life, whatever, what would you say is the biggest lesson that he told you, whether that just be as a man, as a person, outside of the ring or inside the ring?
He said, you don't got to be in the gym for a long time. You just got to be in the gym and do it right.
Mm.
And that was something I hung on to. A lot of people be in the gym for a long time. But people be trying to, people be in the ring. He said people be in the gym and they want to come to the gym and they've been in the gym for a long time. You don't got to be in the gym a long time. You just got to come here and do what you got to do.
Mm. Absolutely. So the other thing I want to get into to wrap this interview up is you also have another career path you've been pursuing outside of boxing, and that's music. So I got to ask you about that a little bit. What started that motivation and get you inspired to start producing on the music aspect?
I'm making music since I've been like younger. It's always been like a thing, especially in my culture. Just making music is like everybody likes to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started that young, like really, 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 really young. I'm 12, 11 years old making music. And it's just something that I'm able to do now. Like I use my resources to be able to, be creative and be able to, have a like a music career with the research that I've provided through myself through boxing. So, it's just something I love to do. So if I love to do it, I'm gonna do it. It doesn't get in the way. It just really keeps me focused because it's like when I'm not boxing, I'm in the studio, I'm creating music, I'm doing. I have something that I really love to do. So I put my passion into that. And everything's aligned. It's like some people like playing video games or like watching movies or binge watching or TV shows. I'll just make music. I like being creative. I like expressing myself through art.
So when did you start actually pursuing like that? Was there an actual point you said, you know what, I can at least, obviously you always, like you said, you always enjoyed making it and whatnot, but actually pursue it and investing in yourself, obviously putting the financial resources and whatnot into it. When did you decide to make that decision?
I mean, after the Darrell fight, we had a party. My friends were like, "Well, we have a party. Let's just celebrate." You know what I mean? You really want to fight, like you're gonna celebrate for the win. I'm like, so like, I kind of was just like, all right. And I was in the mood to make some music. So I made some music, and I'm like, all right, well, we might as well turn the party into a music video. And then, and then we just kept going from there. I mean, I always put music and I put it, but now like I'm like, you know what? Let's just push it. Let's make it part of my career. Let's just make it a thing. And I think at first people were kind of like trying to grasp what I was doing, but I think it's starting to catch fire because my music is good. If you like the style of my music, I mean it's good music, and it works. You know, it fits my person. It's my personality. It's really me. And then you able to see a different side of me.
Mm-hmm.
As you becoming a fan of me as boxing. So I mean, it works hand in hand, and it also gives me something to do when I'm not in the ring, and I be bored. Training my life away. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm in the gym now. I mean, was in the gym earlier.
Yeah.
Be staying ready for the fights, but that also gives me something else to think about. And I've learned that having different things to think about and not being so obsessed with one thing, it helps you be better at it. Yeah, having a little mental break. So, and it works both ways. Like me being when the fights get close and I'm locked in, when I come back and make music, it's better. You know, and when I take a break and I'm more in my music, when I go back to the gym, I'm excited to be there. I'm like I'm re-hype again. Like let's go, let's do it. Like who's next?
So I gotta ask though, do you ever listen to yourself when you're getting ready for a fight or in training?
Absolutely, that's absolutely. If I don't listen to myself, who will listen to me?
True that. True.
I have a playlist, and my music is thrown into the playlist, and so it comes on through the playlist. So everybody on the playlist, but my music is on there as well.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I work out to my music.
So do you see music being something that you can even more heavily pursue? Obviously, there's going to be a day at some point in the future that you're going to end up giving up boxing and have to move on. That day will come someday. Music's something that you could typically and essentially do for the remainder of your life.
I'll never stop doing music. I don't do music for people. I do it for myself.
Gotcha.
The career of music, like it's fun. Like performing is fun. I like performing in boxing. It's the same thing. Just I'm not punching people. I'm not getting taking any punishment. It's the same kind of feeling. So it's something I will continue to do. It's just part of my life. It's not something that I'm doing because I box or I'm doing in spite of boxing. Like it's just something that I do. So it's something I wouldn't stop doing. It brings me happiness. Anything that brings you happiness, you just should keep doing. I don't think I ever 100% be out the boxing game. Like even when my career is over, like training, I'll probably be a trainer or do some type of maybe I don't know, like maybe I have a podcast or maybe I'll do some commentary. I don't know, but I know I won't be able to just fully walk away from something I love.
Gotcha. Well, I got one final question I always like to wrap up every interview with, and that is asking that whenever that day does come and you obviously have your legacy left behind, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want that legacy to be for Kyrone Davis?
That I was able to, reach the peak of the sport, and wasn't scared to fight anybody, anytime, and was a real throwback fighter. Fighter could have fought in any generation.
Absolutely, man. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking time to come on today, and I can't wait to see what God's got next for you, man. Looking forward to whoever you're going to be fighting next, man.
Appreciate you.
Of course. You're always welcome on, man. God bless. Appreciate everyone for tuning in today to this interview. I'll be back to talk about the other discussions that we led to heading into this interview, but I appreciate everyone for tuning in once again, and I'll see you guys after this break when I'll break down the 3 different topics I alluded to in the beginning of the show. See you guys soon. God bless. From the moment I was born, a ball was in my hands and a deep passion for sports was ignited. My dream was to play the game for as long as possible, but God had other plans. After battling with severe illnesses caused by black mold poisoning for nearly 4 years, I made the difficult decision to let go of my on-court dreams heading into my junior year of high school. However, I was determined to have one last victorious moment as an athlete, and that was achieved on February 9th, 2019, when I ran a marathon at the age of 16. That night, as I took a recovery Epsom salt bath, I felt God place on my heart the idea to start a podcast. Although I didn't know where to begin, the first episode of SchuZ Views dropped on March 11th, 2019. Over the next 1,183 days, more than 600,000 people tuned into 1,056 interviews. Then, on June 6, 2022, my final interview for over a year was released featuring Jameer Young. I never once thought that I'd be off the air for over a year, but the truth is there was something missing in me. At first, I thought creating a website would help fill that void, so I went and put together SchuZ.net, but nothing changed. Throughout the next month, I continued searching for answers, and eventually, God worked in the only way that would have gotten my attention at that point in time. Through something work-related. By the end of July 2022, my parents blessed me with the opportunity to build a studio. However, before breaking ground, the real change began. On August 3rd, 2022, my life changed forever. Once again, I happened to be taking a bath late into the night, and suddenly, an indescribable feeling came upon me. It was a profound urge to open up my Bible and read. I turned to 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and since that night, not a single day has passed without me spending time in the Word. You see, what was missing all along was Jesus. On August 6th, my dad and I began to lay the foundation for the next chapter of my career. Simultaneously, the foundation of who I was created to be was also being laid. Over the years, I had lost sight of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I knew of God, but I didn't know Him, and I certainly was not following or living like Him. But day by day, the new me began to take shape. My former self's sole priority faded away, and I began to live out the acronym I often talked about, FJTFOE. It stands for First Jesus, then Family Over Everything. God became my everything, and He transformed me entirely. He helped me rediscover my love for family, running, lifting, playing basketball, giving back, the church, and most importantly, Him. This journey began with a craving to nourish my old identity, but God's hand was always in control, rapidly shaping my new identity. As God transformed me, He also grew my relationship with every member of my family. Together they stood by me and contributed to the person I am today. Through it all, Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20 manifested its truth in my life. The blessings I received far exceeded anything I could have imagined. The truth is that God's hand has always been there, but now I'm committed to following His path. Although I may look different, and my heart has undergone a profound change, I am truly blessed to announce the beginning of a new chapter. Starting July 24th, I will be launching my new show, the SchuZ Show, which will air on my YouTube channel every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I can't wait for you guys to join me in this next chapter. I'll see you guys soon, and may God bless you all. There is a funny aspect about you, and that's the fact that I don't think you necessarily even tried to, but there's been countless times in your brief NBA career already that you've made it viral. You've made memes of yourself, whatever it might be. One of which was in the midst of that 40-point streak. You obviously broke LeBron's record, and you made your comment saying about, well, I'm not really a LeBron guy, I'm a Kobe guy. And I don't think you even intended that to go viral. Now you have that.
Nah, not at all.
There's your Steve Nash moment during the Summer League. We know that aspect. I think that was after the second year. You had a fine, obviously, at one point. You have your branding that you've now done. When you look at all these, like, do you ever intend to expect something to go viral or be funny? Or does you just end up happening, and then by the time you get back on your phone, you're like, oh, this already just went down, dang.
Bro, that's crazy. No, not at all. No, because even with my brand, like, when a random person asks me, because you know, random people always see, like, oh, he's so serious, and I'm just like, bro. And then I say it all the time. Like, I say it no matter what. And I said it at one time and it blew up. And I was just like, I mean, I said it, I've been saying it every time. Like, somebody asked me that. So then, you know, that blew up. And then the Kobe thing, I was just being honest. I mean, it's no disrespect to LeBron. Obviously, I love looking at LeBron playing stuff like that. You know, he's done a lot for the game and stuff. But it's just me being a fan of basketball, me growing up with Kobe, just, you know, my love for Kobe is like unmatched. So, you know, really that part. So really everything I say, I'm just like, I mean, I'm not really intending to go viral. I'm just speaking what's on my mind at that point. So, you know, if it goes viral, it goes viral.
Which one of the things that's happened so far, maybe even one that I've not listed yet, was the most surprising to you? Like, by the time you got on your phone, maybe even someone else came and told you about it, where you're like, dang, that really went viral?
The branding,
Mm-hmm.
my brand. Honestly, I was never expecting to go viral because I always said it. I always said the same thing, no matter what somebody asked me. That I always said it, and never went viral before. And then that one particular day, I woke up, and then the very next day, or a few hours later, I don't really remember because we was playing Philly when I said it. We was playing Philly, and then when I said it, it took off, and I was like, oh man, I was not expecting that at all.
Staying consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. I'm finna stand on a rock, firm foundation. I got that dog in me, like 101 Dalmatian. I got girl with me, so I knew that I'm still finna make it. I'm still finna take it. I hopped in the ring and I'm still going crazy. I cut off this sin like I just got a taper. I walk in the storm and then God gave me favor. I'm still going forward. I just had the luck in the Lord. I knew that I'm finna make it. Doing my old self, he got deported. Shout out to the king and I'm finna take it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the SchuZ Show. I appreciate everybody for tuning in earlier in the first part of the show with the interview with Kyrone Davis. Obviously, I believe you can go back and rewatch if you haven't already. And if you're catching this show now in the future, obviously you can go back and watch that later on. I'll also post the full interview clip later on YouTube. That being said, though, I started the show off by saying, well, I've got the three topics we're always going to get into. The first one will be eternal echoes, which is from Genesis to Revelation, the mission to echo his eternal power. And I gave you guys the verse of the day to start the day. And to get reflect, that's obviously going across the bottom of your screen as well. It's Proverbs 12, verse 19. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment. So I told you guys to ponder, reflect on that, meditate on that, in fact, throughout the past hour or so. Well, it's time to get into this topic now. And I'll be honest with you guys, to begin this segment, it's going to be a little bit different approach than I think most people take when they talk about the Word of God and whatnot. And it's different than I've done in previous messages I've given to you guys so far on the show. That being said, I'm going to purposely put an emphasis on truth. And I will cause you guys and cause us all to reflect and hopefully, in all honesty, be convicted and keep it 100 with you guys so that I can tie all this together in the end with the true truth. So I know it's going to get you guys thinking a little bit. It's going to be a little philosophical. And that's kind of where I want to go at with this. I want to make sure we're thinking and realizing something that I want us all to see. That being said, let's get to it. So if I were to ask you guys this question, would you encourage your child to lie? And if you don't have a child, let that say a friend, a sibling, a coworker. Would you encourage one to lie? And I have a pretty good feeling here now that the answer will be no. And I would ask them why. Well, obviously, if we're going to be and evaluate the human mind and body, it's quite frankly that odds are quite high, I should say, that it's the moral ethics. You know it's not right, or at least the bare minimum, you don't like it. So you don't like it. Now let's read Proverbs 12, verse 17 to 22. And we start in verse 17 and reads this. An honest witness tells the truth, but a false witness tells lies. The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment. Deceit is in the hearts of those who plot evil, but those who promote peace have joy. No harm overtakes the righteous, but the wicked have their fill of trouble. The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. Do you guys catch that? The Lord detests lying lips. God also does not like lying. So let's keep this real then. You don't like lying. You don't like it, whether it is a moral conviction or that is something that you just don't want to be a part of. And I agree with you. I think we can all agree on that aspect. And most importantly, then God does not like it. In fact, he detests lying lips. So that's great. We all agree on something that should be the conclusion of this, and we can move on with our life. But I did some research. And yet, according to Cross River Therapy, I'm going to give you guys a large list of stats right now to let us know about lying and us as people. So let's start this off. At 4 years of age, 90% of kids will understand the meaning of lying. According to research, about 60% of people 18 and older are incapable of having a conversation without lying once every 10 minutes. On average, 3 lies are told by adults every 10 minutes. All right. Online lies are the most often seen on dating sites, where 90% of participants engage in untruthfulness. 40% of lies are seen on resumes. All right, so we're lying to our coworkers, we're lying to potential spouses. Great. On a daily occurrence, there are 12% of people 18 and older who lie sometimes or quite often. On occasion, 80% of women tell half-truths. On average, 6 lies are made to supervisors, partners, spouses, and workmates every day. Of all liars, 70% of them claim to be willing to do it again. Number 7. Every week, Americans tell 11 lies. In a study of 11,366 lies told by 632 people over 91 days, 75% of them lied between 0 or 2 times per day. 6% of the participants had low lying levels, though lied more often on some random days. In total, most of the lies were trivial. Number 9. In another study, lies were studied over a brief period. The variety of people's lies tended to fluctuate. People that lie more often show greater variation than those who lie less often. The top 1% of all liars that lied 17 times each day had the most variance. The participants with little variance were the 1% with nearly no instances of lying. All right. So it seems like we lie a lot. Now, I'm not done yet. Let's continue with a few more here. Yes, everyone lies at times. Between ages 2 and 3 years old are the average ages for when a child tells their first lie. Folks, that's not much longer after just learning how to speak or walk. And we're coming out of the womb, essentially, after 2 or 3 years already lying. When meeting someone for the first time, a person will lie to them twice or 3 times within a 10-minute time frame. We talk about good first impressions. Well, there's how we're making our first impressions. Now, how many lies are told a day? In one day, the average person lies 4 times, totaling 1,460 lies each year. While men lie about 6 times a day, women lie 3 times a day on average. I hope we just heard a lot of the stats here, so it makes it quite clear that we are all lying. And I told you guys before I listed the stats that we don't like lies, and God does not like lies. So our priorities are typically God and others, and obviously ourselves later on, and yet all of those are no, no, no. But here's how I think a lot of our minds are thinking. I think it's going to be similar to how I once thought, and it's this. Well, that does not apply to me. Mine aren't that bad. Or here's one that I honestly was convicted of when I was younger. Well, I just exaggerate. That's not really a lie. No, that is a lie, folks. Exaggerations are lies. It's a branch off the tree of lies. It's still a lie. There's no, in all sense are equal. Let's not start that debate there. And you might be thinking, well, how are these numbers possibly accurate? I don't lie because odds are you're thinking about large-scale lies. Well, here's some common lies that are done in the world today. How one is doing. Somebody asks, how's your day going? And one will respond with something that's not accurate or true, thus being lies. To the doctor about medical issues, your exercise, smoking, drug use, etc. To avoid being around somebody. Yeah, I'm busy. No, you're not. To protect somebody else. Telling a joke or making a prank. Make a good impression on others. Or to appear more favorable to them. Ultimately leading in personal gain. Yeah, a lot of us are lying every day and we don't even realize it. We are all liars. That includes myself, and I'm going to speak from my perspective because, quite frankly, I don't know you in your day-to-day, every word you think and utter out of your mouth. I can speak on my behalf. I know I'm a liar. I can look at those stats and I can assume that you are likely a liar as well. So I ask this question. We all lie way too much. We don't like it. God does not like it. Others don't like it. But yet we're doing it. And that's why I wanted to get into today's topic. Because I was thinking about life and I read this verse and I started thinking, has lying become too okay in today's world? Has it got to a point where we are now standing or sitting in a world where lying has become the social norm, has become proper? You could say it's cultural, however you want to say it is. Yet we know it's not okay, folks. Is that the place that we are currently in? Where lies are now becoming something that it just is what it is. Folks, let's look through the Bible real quickly. How many times specifically let's actually say both books of the Bible now that I think about it. I was going to go with the Old Testament approach, but thinking about the Israelites, thinking about the different lands and Canaan and all these different nations that they had to destroy. And the reason for a lot of this was that they followed cultural practices in which these cultural practices did not glorify God, and God commanded them and said, hey, this is not okay. You better not be a part of what they are doing, because the cultures does not mean me. The true culture and the culture we shall all live by is the culture that God has called us to live by, not what these other people are doing. And well, let's look at our culture today. If lies are becoming a cultural component in the ways in which we live, think, and process and interact, that's not a culture that we should be a part of. And so I asked the question again, has lying become something that is too common in today's world? Has it become a social norm in which we have just waved the white flag and said, you know what, it's all over, I'm going to lie, and I can't do anything about that? And if that is the case, and I believe so, it is true, then we've got a problem. And this message came to me because when my life was saved on August 3rd, 2022, there was a massive change in my life. And in that massive change, lots and lots of things prevailed. And I recognized many, many, many other sins that I was also living in. Now, the major sins is one aspect, but you realize that there's many hidden underground aspects as components to you as well. And all sins are equal. Therefore, all must be addressed. So I started addressing that. And the large thing for me was exaggerations. I said, for me, I'll be personally honest as best as I can here. Giving a large-scale lie was not something that I ever liked. The second I ever did that, I would typically go and need to spill the truth out within 5 minutes or so. I was not good at telling that. But what I found myself accustomed to doing was telling an exaggeration and having it be something that, as I said earlier, well, it's not directly lying. It's stretching the truth. And so on and so forth. And my mind decided to grasp a component of saying, well, it's not quite that. It's not as bad, so I don't need to be convicted. That's inaccurate. That's false. So that's a lie in and of itself. And exaggeration is literally a lie. It's off the tree of lies. And so I started changing myself, but then I came across this. As I said, I've been studying Proverbs, and I was reading through this in a couple of days span, and it was 3 days in a row of practicing about the importance of telling the truth. And so my takeaway from those days was, well, let's put an emphasis on telling the truth. I thought maybe I'm doing a pretty good job. I knew I'm sinful. I knew I'd make mistakes. And as I'm going through these days, and I'm trying to be so mentally aware of every time I'm possibly telling a lie, I begin to realize, well, quite frankly, those 3 to 6 times a day, as the stats say, in a male, were not lies. And that's coming from somebody that had the emphasis in those days of making sure to watch my mouth and watch my mind so that I would not be telling those lies. And so that has now been an emphasis since that point in time. And so we have to recognize that lying is not okay, and we're all doing it in some shape or form. We need to stop making the excuses here of saying, well, it's not as bad. Listen, folks, I said this the last couple of times in the different segments. The whole component of us trying to rationalize sinning, it's not good. All sins are created equal. It is written that in the book, in the Word of God. It has been told over and over again. We know this is truth. Stop trying to rationalize sinning by comparing it to the laws of the land and putting a worldly aspect of this is worse than this. It's all equal, folks. So if you're having any form of branching off of sinning, that needs to be addressed ASAP. All right, so we got some of this stuff addressed. Now I really want to make sure that we emphasize what this lying is and, quite frankly, how foolish we might be to be doing this. I want to start off with this, and we're going to get philosophical on a lot of stuff. And I want our minds to fully grasp the foolishness of this lying in this problem that we currently have in our society. So I'm going to start off with this. Not all this will be 100% scripture-based, but this will be truth. This will be factual basis. The first one is this now. John chapter 8, verse 44 reads this. Now, a little emphasis actually before I read it. I didn't want to take this out of context, so I want to make sure we know what this is. This is Jesus talking to the Pharisees, explaining what they are doing to the people, and therefore, a lot of this we have to understand what we're talking about. The reason that I'm utilizing the scripture here is because of a specific line on the end that I will be breaking down, but I want to read the entirety of the scripture, so I'm not just taking stuff out of context fully. I just want to give you guys the context there. So, John chapter 8, verse 44 reads this. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, For there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language. For he is a liar and the father of lies. John chapter 8, verse 44. I read this because, as I said, obviously this is Jesus talking to the Pharisees. We can just kind of disregard that, right? Now, this could occur to some of us, sure. If we're not followers of Jesus, yes, we know who we belong to. But where I want to go here is this component. Jesus is God in human flesh. God has been here since the beginning of time. He's never not been there. He's been forever, always, forever, will always be alive, and will never perish and never has. He's been there since he is God, right? And we know that before we became people and this world was created, there was the fall. Satan was around from that beginning point. Now, the time this can all be debated, when was angels and all this stuff created, that's a topic for another day. The point is that God is fully aware of Satan, knows exactly who he is. It's like he knows all of us, and yet he had a relationship longer with Satan than he has had theoretically with any of us, because obviously he knew our conception was going to be born and once again in one day in the future. Satan was alive since the beginning of time, so on and so forth. You guys get the point. Therefore, what I'm saying is that this lying we do, it comes from one and one only. Not all sin does. Yes, you could say that. But this lying thing that we've become socially okay with, it stems from whom Jesus calls the father of lies, his native language. There is no truth in him. Folks, if that is something that we're going to study and become part of, what does that mean about us? What does it mean that if we're going to live in a life in which we utter vibrations of our vocal cords out, in which do not reflect God, but in fact are spoken directly of the ways of the enemy, that you guys could put those pieces together? Quite frankly, what we're doing is we are utterancing words of the enemy. We're speaking the native language of Satan, as Jesus says. We are living in a lifestyle that is of the father of lies. And I don't think that's something that any believer would ever want to do and would make no sense to us, yet we continue to do it. So I said the verse of the day was Proverbs chapter 12, verse 19, and this reads, "Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment." Right there, I can see you guys thinking, well, the word of God might not be true here. What do we got right here? Truthful lips endure forever. A lot of time when you tell the truth, you might be getting in trouble. But a lying tongue lasts only a moment. I can see a lot of people thinking the way I might have thought when I read this the first time around. Well, I see some people that are good liars and well, they get away with some stuff. They don't have to face the full punishment at that time. What a worldly mindset that would be. Remember, folks, we're on this world for just a short time span. A very, very minute time span in the grand scheme of things. God is here forever and all time, and he determines the ultimate life. Remember, for the believer, this life on earth is the worst life we'll ever get. For the non-believer and those that are bound for hell, the truth is that this is the best life we'll ever get. So let us look at this from an eternal perspective to begin with. But it's not even that. And I'm going to break down this. This is the exact thing that David Guzik's commentary gave for, and I just wanted to speak this out. I just wanted to let you guys know this because this was too good not to just share directly. And so I'm just going to speak directly out of this commentary from Blue Letter Bible. The very first thing was the David Guzik point he made. Take this stuff and reflect on it. The lying tongue is but for a moment. It often seems that the lying tongue wins the day and is stronger than the truthful lip. The judgments of God, the judgments of the God of truth will show how temporary the success of the lying tongue is. Similar to what I just said. We think that the lying tongue wins the day, and maybe you could say it does, but does it really? We're talking about the God that's eternally here. How temporary is that success? The max it could potentially be, if you make life without ever being exposed, is you have a lifetime that could be, who knows how long. Odds are not more than 120 years. We're talking about eternal life. And it ain't going to be very good there. The next one, this comes from G. Campbell Morgan. But for a moment, the lying tongue may continue to utter its falsehood for long years by the calendars of men. But when you place those years by the side of the ages of God, They are as a moment, as the winking of an eye, as nothing. God knows the truth each and every single time we utter those words. He knows the truth at that point in time. And while we may think that, oh, I got away with that lie for this moment, this minute, this hour, this day, this week, this month, this year, and maybe, quite frankly, this lifetime, you didn't really get away with it. And in the grand scheme of things, you really didn't get away with it for much time at all. Adam Clark says this: truth stands forever because its foundation is indestructible. But falsehood may soon be detected, and though it gained credit for a while, it had that credit because it was supposed to be truth. Adam Clark says this. I love this one, and this is the one that really actually inspired me to do this breakdown. When you think of what is the truth, what is lies? Well, truth, folks, it is the foundation. When the truth is stated, there can be nothing else that can change, alter whatever that truth is. That is the correct foundation. It is the correct answer. There is nothing that can alter that correct answer because it is the foundational truth. It is set in stone. That is the answer. That is the truth. It stands forever. It cannot be altered or changed. What happened, happened. It is a fact. It is truth. But what you're doing when you lie is that you're taking the concept of lying to alter this truth. You're placing it essentially in effect as a camouflage over that truth so that it appears as the new truth. That's what you want to imply. Now remember, this is just a camouflage thing. The second you take the camouflage off, you see the true truth. This is a camouflage effect to go over the concept of truth so that it becomes the new foundation of a supposed truth in this world. And in that, when it camouflaged over it and it essentially looked as if it is the truth, it can gain recognition. It can make you look good. It can make it seem as if, hey, all things are all right. You told the truth because it looks like it's the truth, but the mind is always looking for the truth. The mind does not want falsity. The mind does not want lies. The mind is looking and seeking for truth. Therefore, the reason lies oftentimes work is because, hey, if you camouflage it good enough, it appears as the truth and the people want to look for the truth. So therefore, when the truth is covered up and you see the new idea of what the new truth is, essentially, quote unquote, that then people want to believe it. And that's all lying is that you're just trying to cover up what the truth is, essentially, to make it look as if it is a new truth. Do we realize how messed up that really is? The truth is still there. All you're doing is this little blanket, this little camouflage outfit that you're putting up on over it. That can blow away in the wind. That can alter. That can be moved. That can be picked up. That can be altered. But yet that's all we're doing. The truth does not change. You have to realize that. When you lie, the truth does not alter. The truth is the answer. You're just trying to avoid the answer. Another thing that G. Campbell Morgan says is this: it is truth which abides. A lie must perish. In a world still largely mastered by lies, it is difficult at times to believe this. Yet, to review the history of the race, it is to have evidence of it. Lies are always perishing. G. Campbell Morgan said that, as I said. I see your minds thinking right now, well, how? How would you say to me that lies are perishing? I see lies all the time, and I think it's working out pretty good. There's a lot of lies going on in this political debate right now in America that we see constantly going on. This lies being spewed out everywhere. We look at history, lies have oftentimes been uncovered. Now, is it at the moment in time? No, they might get away with it, but eventually it gets exposed. Let's just think off the top of my head, we have the Watergate in America. Yeah, that got exposed. Let's look back all the way back to World War II when we look at the Nazis and their propaganda to make it sound like what they were doing was right. Yeah, that's obviously inaccurate. That was a massive, massive, brutal, and quite frankly, demonic lie. There are lies that we can continuously provide politically, probably in your workforce that I'm not aware of, in so many aspects. Lies do get exposed over time. It might take time, but lies ultimately get uncovered at one point or another. Now we're going to get a little bit just philosophical in other aspects now. And one is a guy that I love listening to, Jordan Peterson. He says this: the truth will reveal the world the way it's intended to be revealed. Whatever makes itself manifest as a consequence of the truth is the best possible reality that could be manifest. Even if You can't see it. Now, that's deep. I know we're going to think through that. I'll break it down for you guys. I said the foundation is the truth. We camouflage the truth with a lie to make it appear as a new truth, but that eventually creates a bump in the road to some extent because now there is something over it. It's not the exact direct straight line land that you're now on. When you see the world and you see the truth, it is the way it's supposed to be. God created the world to be perfect, and perfectness would be in truth because God is the truth. He is the way, the truth, and the light. The truth is always the best way. We will make mistakes, yes, but the truth is only going to prevail and get the best possible option. That's the only thing that makes it. That's the only thing that makes sense here, and I'll explain why. Why would you say the truth is the best way? Why do you think that it will reveal the world that's the way it's intended to be? How could you possibly say that the best possible reality that could come from telling the truth is going to occur? Let me tell you why. Here's a question for you. You look at the world. Would it be a better place if everybody told the truth? I believe so. If there was no lies, the world would be a much better place. Clarity would occur. Uncertainty would be no longer. It would be a good place. You would bring the world into becoming a good place. And that's because if everybody tells the truth, you have the best possible place. And guess what? That starts to look a little bit more like heaven, where there will be no lies because everything is perfect there. And where this world was supposed to be originally, at the conception of this world when God created it, was to be a perfect place, there was going to be no lies. Do you remember why this world became no longer a place of no lies? Well, the one that we talked about a little bit ago, the one that Jesus calls the father of lies, the one that's native language is a lie, told a lie to mankind to be able to gain something by eating the apple. Lies have been the downfall of life, and you could say ultimately lies stem from pride, and that's another discussion. Yes, it does, but let's continue this. Another thing I want you guys to think about. We don't have the power to manipulate reality. I said a few times, the truth is the foundation. We camouflage the truth with a lie to make it appear as the truth. But we can't manipulate reality. Reality is truth. Reality is what actually happens, the factual basis of what occurred. We cannot manipulate reality. You can certainly bring new things into reality, though, by applying that camouflage effect, but you cannot get away with falsehood. You can add something, which is the truth of a situation is still there, and it will come back because the truth isn't leaving. No matter what you do, the truth will not leave. It will not perish. It cannot be altered because the truth is the truth. So might I ask then, how is it that lies can get exposed? I said before, we see it happen. Well, here are some common ways done by studies that truth end up coming to fruition and becomes seen by the public, and that camouflage effect gets lifted up. Here's just a couple of them. Through anger. Lots of people often say in anger we see a person's true reaction, true feelings, and true emotions. That oftentimes gets a lot of truths exposed. Intoxication. Yes, when one removes the filter of the mind and you become free-willed to an excessive extent, you begin to utter words that are truth because you have no filter that you're trying to hide anymore, eliminating that effect that provides wisdom originally from what came, essentially falsehood of understanding good and evil that the apple gave us, right? But you begin to understand and just speak out words. And then you have another aspect of people leaking information. A lot of the political ones I discussed stem from that. People going in, investigating it, breaking it down, and exposing truths. Those are just some of the many, many ways, though. But I say that because why do we even care whether or not it gets exposed through any of those options I just said or other ones? We should not be living a life here now where our mindset is set upon what our boss, our parents, our siblings, our family, the world, so on and so forth, really think. It's not about getting away or getting something over them. That's not the way our minds are supposed to work. Our minds are supposed to be living for the glorification of God and for the glory of God. And I said already, God knows all things. God is omnipresent. He has the power of God. He is almighty. He is all powerful, and he sees and knows all. And yet, why are us as believers trying to live in a lifestyle where we are lying to the face or the appearance of another human being or soul so that we can get something over them, when ultimately that's not even who we're living for here? We are living for God. And yet God knows exactly what we're doing in that moment. He knows the thought that's even trickling in our mind to lie well before it even comes to fruition, as I talked about last segment. And therefore, we are ultimately lying to God over and over again. Those stats that we said earlier, and I said to different occupations, different jobs, different people, different genders, whatever the case may be, ultimately those lies are all going towards God. And here's an example I want to give you guys. Something I also kind of picked up on it, and I thought this kind of came to mind. I felt like God placed it a little bit on my heart here. An example of what I just said. So often we want to go lie to others to avoid consequence, to do the many different things I talked about earlier, but yet God sees it. And what a better visualization than this story in the Bible. Simon Peter, Jesus has been arrested and has been brutally already gone through vast torture and whatnot, just beginning the night, and we're going to the early morning, obviously before the death of Jesus on the cross. And Simon Peter sitting down with others, and they say, "Aren't you the disciple? Don't you know Jesus? Aren't you a follower of him?" And to that he says, "No." The third time before the rooster crows, he says no once again. And at that point in time, Jesus looks at him in the face. Now, when we lie, God always sees what we're doing. This is a visualization example of that in a real aspect on earth as Jesus, God in bodily form. But he looked at Simon Peter right in the eyes, and he saw him as he uttered that. And let me remind you, this was not just a coincidence that's occurred. Remember, God told him that they were going to, one of the disciples would do this. Jesus stated that this will occur before the rooster crows, and he uttered these words, this prediction, and in that prediction coming to fruition, it became a truth in which God said. And right as Simon Peter, as a human being, just as any of us are, lied 3 times about the one in whom he serves, God looks at him right in the face. And I know so many of us will start thinking, oh, I would never do that to you, Lord. How could I ever deny your great power? How could I ever deny you and deny your goodness and grace? Folks, this is a disciple of God. I have a good feeling. I'm not going to convict you specifically, but I have a good feeling that a lot of us would be in a similar position if our lives depended on it. I said at the beginning that I tie this all together now with the fullness of truth, and hopefully you can recognize that we are more sinful than we could ever imagine, that we need help. I wanted to go through this segment today, and I want to emphasize the importance that, guess what, folks? What we do, this culturally normalized conception of what we are currently carrying out in our lives daily, momentarily, as you might even say, that is foolish of us, ignorant, dumb, quite frankly, that's become part of who we are. That first of all, what we're doing makes no sense. It's not right. It's not okay in the eyes of anybody, quite frankly, when I talk to you guys about this. And then on top of that, I explain just how foolish, unwise, evil it is that we do this. It makes no sense. It's quite frankly dumb to even try to go down this lane of path. And therefore, that shows us multiple things. A, we are more sinful than we could ever imagine. We have a lot of problems. B, we're referred to as sheep quite a bit in the Bible, not the smartest creatures in the world. God is our shepherd, and we can see that how dumb we are at times is lived out in this equation. We need help. That's the fact of the matter. We need help. And I wanted to make sure that I brought this realization of this foolishness to our attention. And the reason for that is that this is a complex understanding of the cross and the work there. If we just believe, and yes, you go to heaven 110% just by believing in the name of Jesus, that he came on earth, he lived a perfect life, he died on the cross for our sins and rose from the dead 3 days later, you're going to go to heaven. Okay. But do we understand the aspect of that? If we go into this understanding this and just say, okay, well, Jesus died on the cross for me, great, he's forgiven me of my sins. That's great. But how about if we truly, first and foremost, have sincere repentance and therefore to have sincere repentance, we must fully grasp the understanding of how unwise, how foolish we are in our decision making, how sinful we are. We must first grasp the totality of what we actually are living out and doing. And if we so do that, and that's why I want to bring this to you, we can then have the appropriate respect, admiration, and praise to be able to revere him or fear him, or as we talk about, is more properly translated, not the fear as in you're nervous, but revere him as he's greater than all else, to be able to praise him and have proper revere of God. Because we start to grasp and understand what and how significant Jesus dying on the cross for us was, how significant his blood was for us because of our sin and how evil, how unwise we are, and how much of help we need from God. We can then move forward because we understand that perspective. We can then praise God because then we know that, you know what? Yeah, that's a part of who I was or am even maybe, but I'm forgiven. God's got me and I'll be forgiven. I can move forward. Now, be careful. That does not mean we can stand in a position where we say, oh, it's all good. I'm going to keep on lying. No. Be aware. Take captive every thought, as I talked about last episode. We must take captive every thought, make sure that we do everything we can to eliminate those lies from our mind, to eliminate the ways of this world in which we're trying to live out and these cultural norms that we've now become accustomed to, and make sure we put an emphasis on actually living for God. And the only way to do that is to put our faith and trust in God, allow him to change us from the inside out. But understanding our sin to the full extent will allow us to open the door for forgiveness, to repentance, and to understand just how powerful God is, how good he is, and what the cross actually means for us. It doesn't make our sinning okay, but we all must pursue change so that we may access the full extent of the greatest gift mankind could ever ask for. The blood on the cross, the death, burial, and resurrection of the perfect one, God in flesh. We must allow the Spirit to work in and through us to create the change needed. And that is why I will wrap this up with John chapter 14, verse 6. A verse that I did not want to begin with because this can be taken out of context. This is not necessarily just about lies and telling the truth. This is about the true truth, the one who is the truth of life, the one that if you believe the death, burial, and resurrection, that this is the truth that leads to heaven, and he is the only way, and that is the truth. And that is what this verse is referring to in John chapter 14, verse 6, when Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. In realization of that gift that we received in need, let us look to stop making the sin normalized in today's world. Stop pursuing the sin and thinking that it is a-okay for us to pursue these different ways of life, and start to pursue real change while embracing the forgiveness of our past and our future sins, yet knowing at the end of the day, we all will fall short of the glory of God, and that we need him and his grace, his mercy, and the ultimate truth to lead us in the way everlasting. So folks, guard your mouths. Pay attention and try to eliminate, reduce lies from our mouths. The world will be a better place if you tell the truth. The world will be better in your personal life, your relationship with God, and it can make the world a better place if you simply guard your mouth, tell the truth, and be honest. I want you guys to be able to reflect on that now as I go into break. I appreciate it for tuning in once again, and we'll get into our other subjects and topics right after this break. See you guys later. God bless. were to have the ball in your hands the whole game, you're the guy for a whole season, 82-game season, how much do you think you're averaging?
Ball in my hand, 25, no doubt. Easy. 25, no doubt, easy. And that's just me knowing my ability and knowing what I can bring every night. Because I feel like, because I see like the little stats on Twitter, some games, they be like, when Cam Thomas plays this certain amount of minutes, he averages 30, or he plays, this amount of games with this amount of minutes, he averages 25. So I feel like if I have the ability to play with the ball in my hand, make the decisions, all that stuff, I feel like I can average 25 points a game easy, no doubt.
Staying consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. I'm finna stand on a rock, firm foundation. I got that dog in me, like 101 Dalmatian. I got girl with me, so I know that I'm still finna make it. I'm still finna take it. I hopped in the ring and I'm still going crazy. I cut off this thing like I just got a taper. I walk in the storm and then God gave me favor. I'm still going forward. I just had to lock in the Lord. I knew that I'm finna make it. Though my old self, he got deported. Shout out to the king and I'm finna take it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the SchuZ Show. We are over 2 hours into the show now, and we still got 2 more topics to get into. So let's hop right up on into it. Hardwood reality segment starts now, where the raw authenticity of the Hardwood echoes truth. All right, so we have some good breaking news that, well, not breaking news, actually. Let's scratch that part. We have news that just came out yesterday. At the time when I wrote these notes, it was breaking news. So that being said, what that is significant news. Lauri Markkanen, 5-year, $238 million renegotiation and extension to stay with the Utah Jazz. Here's where it gets interesting, though. He can't be traded for 1 year. The reason for that is he can't be traded, or he's 6 months out from the time of extension, meaning that 6-month point will be post-trade deadline, meaning you cannot be traded until the next offseason. Okay. Glad that we simplified that. Now, for those that are aware of the situation, he was, you could say, likely the biggest potential trade option on the market for lots of teams. Most commonly talked about is obviously Zach LaVine, who I discussed last show. But the best possible player was Lauri Markkanen, a guy that was an all-star just a year ago, had an injury-prone year this past season, and Utah didn't have the best of seasons. But we look at this team now, and Lauri Markkanen is not going anywhere for a year, at least. On a side note, that does mean that trades are over, and there were a lot of teams that's not going to get his services now. The main one that pops in my mind is that there's no Golden State Warriors trade that's going to happen now for him, which, I think that was a thing that a lot of people expected. The Warriors lose Clay, and while I think it was a good move to make, essentially, they had a hole, and now they can't be filled by him. So we'll see how they pivot. But the point is, there's no reason to talk about any other team because it's only about Utah now. And that being said, you now have a core in Utah. Now, I say core because I use that a little bit loosely. They have a lot of rookies this year in a draft that, obviously is going to, we'll have to say our official judgments in a few years, to put it lightly. I'm not going to say anything how good or bad this draft class will be, but, it's hard to say that there's exact expectations for what could come from any of these prospects this year. So we look at this team, the essential technicality core here assembled with the Utah Jazz is Lauri Markkanen leads it with Keontae George, obviously pretty much has the keys to the future there at the guard spot. I like Taylor Hendricks. You had Cody Williams in the lottery this year. Bryce Sensabaugh is a first-round pick from last year. Isaiah Collier, who was the number 1 pick coming out of high school just a year ago, he now got added in the back of the first round this year's draft. You have Walker Kessler, down year last season, could rebound. Obviously, still a good rim protector. We'll see how he develops. Then you have Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, amongst others. Now, look at the Western Conference. I would be honest, I don't think this team has a chance in the West. And that's a shame because this team has young talent. Now, if these guys all break out and have good seasons, then that's a different story. Don't get that wrong. It's just this team is clearly young. And Markkanen kind of sort of fits in that time frame, but we'll see overall how it all comes to fruition. But, this is a team that has a young core. I'm excited to see what do the young guys got. What are these draft picks? You have Kyle Filipowski also been in there. He's not signed to a deal yet, and there's a lot of backstory going on with Kyle Filipowski. But, I like this Utah Jazz team. They've got a good young core assembled now, and we'll see how they continue to add on. Now, I will say this. In the West, when you have a conference that's loaded with, honestly, contenders. I mean, we talk about Phoenix Suns, and they might be, I haven't done my Western rankings yet, but, this is a team that wasn't even a top 5 seed this past year. You add in that team, that's a contender right there. So it's very hard to see how Utah gets going here. But a healthy team, Lauren Marketing is an all-star. I think Keontae George will have a massive breakout season this next season. And then you see what these young guys got. Bryce Henson was injured for a lot of last year. Taylor Hendricks could have a massive jump. I think he actually will. Sexton and Clarkson, good veteran guys that are part of that team. Walker Kessler could have a bounce-back season. Then you have some good rookies. Overall, I do like what the Utah Jazz have done. I think this is a good-looking roster right now. And so we'll see what the Utah Jazz are able to build going forward. But they do lock in Lauren Markkinen. He's going to be a part of this team now for the foreseeable future. And we'll see how they build around it. Now, 1 year from now, we could revisit trade talks. But for now, he's locked in with the Utah Jazz. Now, what happened, I was waiting. I had to watch the game finish before I got live. And then I put together my notes. Hence why I was a little bit late today. So, Team USA, they're advancing to the gold medal game. They have a tough win. They played Serbia a handful of times already in the past few weeks. This is the toughest one. 95-91 victory over Serbia. Steph finally has his Steph Curry performance. 36 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. LeBron gets a triple-double. Embiid plays great once again. And USA advances. They were down by a lot. This was not an easy win by any stretch of the imagination. Serbia had the best game. What a game that they played. That being said, USA prevails, and they go to the gold medal game to play the winner of Germany and France, France won 73-69 over Germany. Remember, Germany won the World Cup last season or a year ago, and that was a great showing. Dennis Schroeder had an incredible performance, but France gets the win. The hometown nation team is going to be playing in the gold medal game against Team USA. There was 3 teams that I think everybody circled and looked at. Obviously, having a guy like Giannis go up against Team USA would have been fun. Having Jokic go against USA is fun. These different things work. But when you talk about teams, right, there was 3 teams that we had. One of those teams happened to be the Canada team. We wanted Canada versus USA, could have been entertaining. Then we also looked at the fact and could have had France versus Team USA. And that was also another thing that we really wanted to look towards and see. So with that being said, we end up getting one of those matchups to happen in the championship game for the gold medal this weekend. We'll have USA versus France. Here's why I'm really excited about this, though. When we look at this team, USA is a player that's been booed the entirety of everything going down. That's Joel Embiid. He handled it incredibly. He's already used to it. He plays the Philadelphia crowd and everything. But what you have is a situation now where he's going to be playing in France against France, which is the team in which Joel Embiid was supposed to be playing for originally, that people rumored at least. And we know that whole backstory. On top of that, we now have Rudy Gobert, Victor Wembanyama, and that whole slew of great NBA players that's on that French team playing Team USA. Now, USA is clearly going in and being the away team here. The crowd will be crazy. It is a gold medal game. And the great thing is, can we just picture this, how exciting this is going to be? The future of the NBA. Victor Wembanyama, who's having a pretty good overall Olympics, especially considering his age and everything going on right now. We're going to see Wemby play one of, if not the greatest player to ever play the game of basketball. Play against the guy that you could say is most similar in regards to just being a 7-footer that can dribble the ball, shoot from wherever, and KD. We get to see that matchup. We get to see Wemby oppose the opposite court of Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, who Embiid, remember, a 70-point game on him earlier this past season. We get to see that come to fruition. The amount of matchups we get to see with Wemby on the court now, it's just going to be an iconic moment to look at. But we get to see USA versus France, gold medal game this weekend. It is going to be an incredible one. I'm going for Team USA. I think they will pull it out. However, they're going to have to play good. Building up a deficit like they did against Serbia today, I don't think it's going to work against France. They have to come out on fire, doing their thing. So we'll see how that comes to fruition. But that is obviously a massive, massive game this weekend. Gold medal game, USA, France, in France, the final day of the 2024 Olympics in Paris. It should be a great one. So that's something to keep an eye on and be excited for this upcoming weekend. And with that being said, I'll go on another short break, and then I'll be getting right to the final subject of the day, combat currents. I'll see you in a few minutes. you were to have the ball in your hands the whole game, you're the guy for a whole season, 82-game season, how much do you think you're averaging?
Ball in my hand, 25, no doubt. Easy. 25, no doubt, easy. And that's just me knowing my ability and knowing what I can bring every night. Because I feel like, because I see like the little stats on Twitter, some games, they be like, when Canton plays this certain amount of minutes, he averages 30, or he plays, this amount of games with this amount of minutes, he averages 25. So I feel like if I have the ability to play with the ball in my hand, make the decisions, all that stuff, I feel like I can average 25 points a game easy, no doubt.
Staying consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. Staying consistent, I move with the clock. I'm in the zone, I'm not casting a stone. I'm finna stand on a rock, firm foundation. I got that dog in me, like 101 Dalmatian. I got girl with me, so I know that I'm still finna make it. I'm still finna take it. I hopped in the ring and I'm still going crazy. I cut off this sin like I just got a taper. I walk in the storm and then God gave me favor. I'm still going forward. I just had the luck in the Lord. I knew that I'm finna make it. Though my old self, he got deported. Shout out to the king and I'm finna take it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the SchuZ Show. I'm your host, Zach, Shoemaker, as a lot of people know me as SchuZ. The final subject and segment of this day is combat currents, unmasking combat currents of today's fight world. So let's get right into it now. All right, a couple of things I want to address today. First of all, I'll start off with what the typical Thursday part of the segment is going to look like, which is a preview of what's to come this weekend. This weekend, we have a little bit of a down week in terms of fighting. We're preparing for UFC 305. There'll be the following weekend in Perth, Australia. This weekend is one boxing event, one that was originally supposed to be Tim Tszyu versus Vergil, I believe, on the card last weekend. Tim Tszyu wasn't healthy enough to fight yet. Therefore, Vergil Ortiz pushed it back 1 week. We'll be fighting in Las Vegas this weekend against Bogacic. Now, this is a fight that I know not people are very hyped up about. And I'll be honest with you guys. This does take place at Mandalay Bay. But what I think is that this is a fight. It's kind of, I think we all know what this fight is going to be. It's now after last weekend, obviously upsets can happen. I don't think anybody saw Pitbull Cruz losing last weekend. That was a shock to everybody. And so I don't want to say after just the massive upset we had last weekend that anybody could lose this. That you can't, it's fighting. Anybody can lose any weekend. It takes one punch to knock somebody out. However, I think the fight this weekend, Vergil Ortiz should have the win quite simply, easily. I don't think it should last very long. And we have to remember, this fight is essentially a fight that's going to happen simply to make sure that he's staying active. He gets a fight underneath his belt again. And this is ultimately, I think we can expect it to be preparation for Terrence Crawford. This was the name dropped by Turki last weekend if the Canelo fight didn't come to fruition, that this would be the fight to make. And now we've seen something I'm going to talk about right after this. In regards to Turki, the Canelo fight appears to be over. So, that obviously put the pieces together. Odds are quite high that Vergil Ortiz, if this win happens and Vergil gets the W this weekend, that at that point in time, we'll see Bud Crawford fighting Vergil Ortiz possibly before the end of the year. Another big-time fight that would be, generally speaking, as Bud will now pursue becoming undisputed again at his third weight class now, which would be something to see. So this weekend, it's a one-fight show. Obviously, there's a lot of fights on the card. I'm saying for those that are notable fights, Vergil Ortiz is the only one for this weekend. It shouldn't be a very long, extensive fight either. Like I said, I think Vergil should get him up and out of there pretty quickly, and it should just be something to prove the point that, hey, he's here to play. It's preparation for what's to come against Bud Crawford in a few months, possibly. So that's more what we're going to look for. How ready is this guy to go fight Bud Crawford next? That's the weekend fight preview. I said next weekend will be a lot bigger. We have UFC 305 in Perth, Australia. But for this weekend, we have a one-fight thing at night. And so that's what we're going to break down. Again, I'll explain that and talk about Vergil and the possibilities of that on the Monday show. Now, let's get into some boxing news, though. Well, I talked about this just a few seconds ago. I said, well, last weekend, Turki came out with a statement, and Turki made it quite clear that, hey, this is going to be a fight where we're going to possibly see Bud Crawford fight Canelo. We knew that was the big hyped up thing as long as Bud won the fight. Well, Bud won that fight, certainly. So, therefore, was it going to be Bud versus Canelo? And what we end up seeing is that, well, things apparently did not go well. And the past few days has been flooded with, to say the least, a heated back and forth between Turki and Canelo Alvarez. And so here's what we're going to pull up right now. I'm going to bring it right up on the screen. This is the first original tweet that Turki made just a couple days ago. All right. And it reads this: just wrapped up an important meeting now with my team planning for the upcoming fights that we will make for 2024, 2025. I decided to disregard the Canelo fight as I don't want it anymore. Instead, I will be focusing for the U.S. market with bigger fights, especially for the legend Crawford. Additionally, I will support making fights for Boots, Haney, Shakur, Ortiz, Anderson, Benavidez, Zepeda, and more. Regarding Tim Tszyu, there's something unclear with the communication from his team with our team, so I believe I will reconsider his situation, and for the rest of the world, definitely, I am focused on Riyadh season card, Wembley edition, 21st September, AJ versus Dubois, which obviously is going to be a mega fight then. And depending on the result of that, and depending on the results of the Riyadh season's opening card, Bivol versus Beterbiev, on the 12th of October, I will build the card for the rematch of Fury versus Usyk on the 21st of December, and another big card on the first quarter of 2025. Stay tuned. So right at the gate, right then and there, we see that, well, the big hyped up fight, Crawford versus Canelo, is over with for now at least. And I'll say I agree. I'm thankful this happened. I alluded to it before. I said at the end of the day, Bud has earned his rights. He's a legend. First ballot, nothing's going to change anything about how we view Bud, especially if he loses that fight. Who cares? As long as he's mentally okay and whatnot and comes out healthy or whatnot. But, he's earned the right to do it. After that fight, though, I think a lot of people can be in agreement that he probably should stay at 154 for a little bit and maybe try to go become undisputed. And it looks like that's the path, and I love that. I fully support that. I love that idea, quite frankly. Now, in terms of other things about that statement, I'll just sidetrack off of real quick. A lot of big names, a lot of big fights we know he's going to keep putting on big cards. I will be a little bit surprised about one aspect. I know he said and more when he listed out the names, but I'm a little surprised we didn't see Bam Rodriguez in there. That's a guy that I think, he just had his first mega fight, became another champion in Arizona at the Sun Stadium Foothill. And so I think that's a big time thing that we see him now developing, and we see his name growing, how big he's becoming. But seeing Bam Rodriguez on a Saudi card, Riyadh season card in the future is something I would have expected. I'm kind of like I said, I'm a little bit surprised he didn't mention him on this group, but I would hope that we do see Bam on one of these massive cards in the future, because he is one of the biggest stars up and coming in the entire game of boxing. He is a true superstar. He is one of the pound for pound greats, and he is spectacular and entertaining to watch. So in that one regard, the other thing I'd say is that if we didn't notice there, the thing that caught my eye as a Deontay Wilder fan is that he didn't mention Wilder's name at all. And it makes sense. Don't get that twisted. What I'm saying is that we all know the rumors. Is he officially done? Is he moving on to retiring? Based upon that statement, Wilder would have been one of the headline names he would have mentioned there, being the fact that he's already been on 2 cards as well. So I think we can start to draw a conclusion that possibly Wilder's career is coming to a conclusion now. All right. So that's great news and all that. And he makes this statement about Canelo being over with. All right. So, well, what do we get after this? Well, here's what happens. We then see this response comes out of Canelo's team, right? And so we know this back and forth. Canelo's preparing for his fight. He's had a whole lot of media stuff over the past couple weeks now. And the exact tweet, and I'll only put up on your guys' screen, is getting loaded here, that Canelo then spoke on behalf of Turki, is this right here. I'm not asking for that fight. I think Teofimo Lopez deserves it more than me. My response to Turki is this. Yesterday, they texted me to talk about the Crawford fight in February. I said, I'm not going to talk about any other fight. I'm focused 100% on this, which is the Edgar Berlanga fight. I respect Turki, but if he wants to work with me, it needs to be my way. All right. So he makes that response. I will say this in regards to that. There's 2 guys that's now publicly gone against what Turki's trying to do. That's Canelo Alvarez and that's Tank Davis. Canelo, I can understand where he's at in his career. The truth is that we talked about this a couple episodes ago. Canelo's an all-time great. He can do whatever the heck he wants. It's up to him to decide if he still wants to be perceived as that top-level guy, though. But, if he doesn't want these big fights, so be it. He also is one of the wealthiest boxers to ever live. So he is set financially. Money is not going to matter if it impacts his legacy. He's going to choose what he wants. The Tank one I'm a little bit more surprised about. That's a topic for another day, though. So odds are now being appearing that we're not going to see Canelo fighting Crawford anytime soon, at least on a Riyadh card. Then Turki comes back with another statement, though. And in this statement, Turki says this then. I heard what Canelo said, that he respects me but doesn't like the way we do business. As for him respecting me, it doesn't matter to me if he does or not. As for the way I do business, I know why he doesn't like it. Because I only target big fights at fair prices. So, of course, anyone who likes easy fights won't like that. And I know how he feels after losing to Bivol. So, he's been looking for easier fights ever since. Also, I'm not the one who's afraid of fighting Benavidez or Crawford. Therefore, I knew he was wasting our time and making excuses with big amounts of money that can't be paid. So I'm continuing my way to make big fights that serve the boxing world, and he's on his way to making easy show only fights. Yeah. That's quite the statement to make. Obviously didn't expect Turki to start firing back like that, but so be it. I'm not going to have a problem with it at the end of the day. They can go back and forth. It is what it is. Obviously, the Canelo fight's not happening now. With Crawford, I think it honestly works out fine as well for everybody involved. So we are no longer going to have that. However, I will say this once again. What Turki is doing that some people want to give him credit for or not. Obviously, Canelo fans aren't going to like what I'm going to say and whatnot. But the truth is that boxing was in a dead period for a very long time. This can be proven by countless aspects when you look at the ratings and whatnot. Boxing was in a dead period. Big fights were not being made. There was 1 or 2 big fights every year, maybe 3, whatever you want to call it, per year. There were a lot of bad fights being made over the past decade or so. He's come into the business now, and he put together 4 fights last night that were considered massive fights, or last weekend that were considered massive fights. That's not even including what he did June 1st. That's not even including what he did in the AJ versus Francis fight. That's not even including what he did in the Undisputed fight. That's not even including what he did December 23rd card. That's not including what he also did to start it all off with Francis versus Fury. He is making big fights happen. He's making fights that people want to see, that are entertaining, that are exciting, and he's making championship fights happen. Something that generations before, back in the, anytime except for like 2010-ish time on, people were just accustomed to. Big fights happen. You could go almost every Saturday and have big fights going on. There were mega stuff happening. Championship belts going down. The best of the best fighting each other. That was not the case. The Deontay Wilder-Tyson Fury fight was so massive and mega because of the gravity of having those 2 heavyweight champions battle it out. That was why that was so big. And we didn't have a lot of that going on. We couldn't get an undisputed heavyweight champion until Turki came into play. So when he says that, yeah, all we want is big fights. He does not want, little side fights, little developmental fights. He doesn't want those little just sideshow things. He wants big fights to happen time and time again. And so if you're not a part of that, he wants no business doing that. And I respect that because that is fixing boxing. It is making it entertaining. It's what we want. It's making the belts move around quicker. It's making undisputed fights happen. And the best are going with it. So if people want to be a part of that, then great. If they're not going to be a part of that, Canelo doesn't need to be a part of it. He's older, obviously. He's in his own lane. Whatever he wants to do, he can do. I'm going to make that clear. But in terms of all these other guys, this next generation up and coming, by all means, this is the way to go. And that's why I said I'd love to see if we can get Inoue in there. We can see Bam get in there. We want to see these mega fights happen. He's the only guy that can make that happen right now. So major props there. The final point of the day I want to discuss is boxing in the Olympics. And for the United States on their behalf, obviously we have all the different champions that's been given out. I'm not going to go down the whole list. I'm only going to talk about USA. USA fizzled out quickly. Debates, obviously everyone's going to debate whether or not, Harvey should have been able to move on, whether that was a knockdown or not. The point is that we only had 1 medalist this year. We haven't had a gold medalist win in the Olympics in 20 years. Yes, Floyd got robbed. We know Floyd Mayweather should have won gold. He didn't. But we got to figure that out. I know there's all these different reasons behind it and whatnot. But the point is we only got 1 medal this year between male and female. And that's Omari Jones. He gets a bronze medal. And he actually looked really good. Let me just make that clear. He had a very impressive Olympic time now. He looks good. I'm excited to see what he's going to do now as he turns pro, and he should be a very exciting fighter to watch going forward. He brings home bronze, and that's the only medal that the United States will take home from this boxing Olympics. That's not okay. When we talk about the greats that are Olympians, you list them, they've been there. And there's two things you can look at. One option is either we're not sending the best guys, the qualification process is too difficult, or something's going on. We're not getting the best group of guys to go out there. And I know COVID ultimately had a lot of effect. We could have had a few other youngsters out there, but obviously they became pros earlier because the COVID thing screwed stuff up. I get that part. So we'll give a little bit of leniency there, but not having a gold medal in 20 years is ridiculous. We have to figure that out as a country, as a nation, and get fighting back. And like I said, that could be because of what I just talked about. It's been a whole generation of boxing not really being that big of a deal because big fights were not happening. It wasn't very appealing. There wasn't a lot of money going on because there was only a few premier names. But now that things are getting going, maybe the next generation starts pushing boxing a little bit more, and we see more fighters and guys that want to fight go and start fighting again. I don't know what's going to happen, but what I do know is leaving the Olympics with one medal is unacceptable for us. Major props to Omari Jones for doing it. I think that Jamal Harvey will be an incredible fighter. I think he's got a great pro future. I'm excited to see what he's got. I think Joshua Edwards as well. He's going to be a great fighter now. I think instead of he fought heavyweight, he's obviously going to go probably fight at cruiserweight, light heavyweight, but great fighter. But the fact that we can't seem to get things going on right now in the Olympics is concerning to a certain extent, and that's got to get figured out because we are a much better nation at that. We have too much talent, too much good athletes and capable fighters to go out there and have a only medal be one bronze between the women and men. So that's something we need to address, but major shout out to Omari Jones. He did have an incredible performance. He looked great, absolutely great. I know that obviously the fight when he could have moved on into the gold medal fight didn't look very good, but other than that, he looked incredible. So major props to him. And with that being said, I just want to say thank you though for everybody that tuned in on today's show. I enjoyed everybody. I appreciate for Kyrone for hopping on earlier. That was a great interview with Kyrone Davis. Anybody who wants to check that out can obviously go check that out in this show. You can also, I'm going to post it probably tomorrow, the official full interview with him. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in today. I hope everybody has an incredible weekend, and may God bless you guys all. All right, talk to you guys on Monday.